What's going on, everybody? I am Kevin Britton. I'm host of the 12th Man at Arrowhead Drive. Be sure to tune in every Sunday and Wednesday for all of your Chiefs content right here on Stadium Drive Sports. Sean's not able to join us tonight, but nonetheless, make sure you guys do check out Sean on the Royal Way, where he talks everything Royals for you every Monday and every Thursday. Also, right here on Stadium Drive Sports. And if you guys are new to the channel, feel free to subscribe. And if you guys do like the content, please like the video. That way we know you guys enjoy what we're doing here at Stadium Drive Sports. And I would like to welcome you all to the Combo Show Live, where you can catch us every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Central Time, where we are here to interact with you, answer any questions that you may have, and talk Chiefs and Royals all in one sitting. So I appreciate you guys joining. All right, let's go ahead and hop right into it. So today we obviously will be talking plenty of Chiefs for you, but even though Sean's not here, don't worry. We're still going to talk some Royals for you as well. And we do have some questions that we received via email, as you guys always do. We do greatly appreciate that. If you guys have any questions for us, feel free to send us an email at stadiumdrivesports@gmail.com, or of course here in the live chat. Feel free to leave any questions that you have here, and we'll be happy to answer those for you as well. So, first off, Gary. Shout out, Gary. What's going on? Yes, Chiefs Kingdom. So the draft this past weekend was, man, it was crazy. Not just for the Chiefs, just the overall draft was nuts. Ton of trades and movement in round one, which was outrageous. And a lot of people falling in the draft that people didn't expect to fall. Everybody expected the NFL to follow suit of the past and, bump quarterbacks on up draft boards just because they play quarterback. Expected, 2 to 4 quarterbacks to be taken in the first round. We ended up only having one. The next one, I believe the next quarterback wasn't even taken until the third round. So the NFL definitely showed what they thought about this draft class. But the Chiefs definitely had a solid draft. There's no doubt about that. Gary asked, do you feel the Chiefs should have drafted a defensive tackle? So I'm kind of torn here because do I think we could use another defensive tackle? Yeah, I definitely think we could. But if you really look at this draft class, there wasn't a ton of talent at the defensive tackle position. You had Devontae Wyatt, who he's an older prospect, so people were kind of up in the air a little bit on him anyway. Beyond that, you had Travis Jones, who I believe fell until the third round, if I remember correctly, which tells you what the NFL thought about him. You saw him in a lot of first-round mocks from a lot of people, but he slid until the third round. I felt like we were going to take a flyer in the fourth round, in the seventh round. There were a couple guys I felt like were worth a draft pick there late in the draft. Marquand McCall out of Kentucky. I thought we might take a flyer on him. I was really expecting that actually during the seventh round. If I had to place money on it, if you would ask me, I would have placed money that we would have drafted Marquand McCall. But there's also names escaping me off the top of my head. I believe the last name's Johnson. He's out of Missouri State. I thought he should have been on our radar as far as somebody to possibly take a flyer on. But to answer your question point blank, Gary, no, I don't think we should have, because I just didn't feel like there was really quality enough players that were there for us that I feel like really could have made an impact on this team. I like Derek Nottie. I know he's not somebody that gets after the quarterback, but he's great against the run. He's able to take on, fill space, fill gaps. He does help free up Chris Jones, just not as much as a pass rushing defensive tackle. What else we got here? Chase, how does Dayton Moore have a job? Yeah, 2 winning seasons. Yeah, I don't know. It's been a rough one. That is for sure. Um, man, I mean, I would love to see the Royals be contenders again. I don't need us to be, in the World Series, to be honest with you. Just compete. I think it all starts with the strikeouts. We're dead even right now. 154 strikeouts for our batters, 154 strikeouts for our pitchers. And that's kind of what it boils down to. Like, you have to win in that category to be a successful team. And we're not winning in that category. I feel like we've gone back and forth on this. We've had good pitching, but terrible hitting. We've had good hitting, terrible pitching. We haven't found a balance on it other than in 2014 and 2015. But I just don't see us moving on from Dayton Moore as much as I do think it would make sense. When you are struggling this much, some changes need to happen, and those changes do need to happen from the top down. Just changing your roster lineup a little bit just doesn't cut it. That's not going to turn around the culture of the team. All right. Also had a couple of questions via email that I wanted to hit on for you guys here as well. Let's see. Holly asked, what are your thoughts on the Chiefs draft? I give it an A++++. Okay. I don't think I'm giving us 3 pluses, but I did definitely like the draft. If you guys have watched any of my mock drafts or heard any of my content and my takes on the draft, I would have preferred Nick Cross to Cook at safety. They were right around the same spot. So I can't fault them for it. They like who they like. They do it for a living. I'm not going to question them on it. But I don't feel like we missed on any of our picks. Not a Karlaftis guy, but it makes sense, right? They had him pegged as being, top guy on the board, essentially. I mean, Spags, he was the guy Spags was pounding the table for. Honestly, Spags knew that he wanted him, so he made sure that they went and got him. I wanted to see us go with a little more athleticism. And when I say that, I mean a little more bend around the edge instead of a power guy. But I think they had a plan. They had a plan to go in and get power. And they definitely accomplished that across the board on the defensive side. So, yes, I like the draft very much. It's an A for me. I don't quite give it the A+, but they couldn't have done a whole lot more than what they did, to be honest with you. So I think it's more of just, honestly, just a personal opinion of I would have liked to have seen somebody other than Karlaftis, and I would have taken crossover Cook. So that's why I don't give it a plus, is honestly just personal opinion. Nothing wrong with what they did. They went with the players they liked, and I think every player that they truly targeted and wanted, I think they got every one of them, to be completely honest with you. So, yeah, definitely give it an A. That was a very, very, very good draft. Let's see. Gary, do you feel the Iowa State linebacker the Chiefs got, undrafted free agent, will make the team? Yes, I do, actually. So for anybody that doesn't know, and I'm just making sure I get his name right. I don't want to get his name wrong here. Mike Rose. Okay, I knew it was Rose. I wasn't sure if it was Mike. So yeah, I do think Mike Rose will make the team. I caught a little bit of tape of him. Once I saw that we signed him, I try to check out people we signed. Granted, life happens. Got to work the 9 to 5, so I try to fit in time when I can. But I was able to check out a little bit of Mike Rose, and definitely a coverage linebacker through and through, no doubt about it. We drafted Chanel, obviously. Well, Rose is the exact opposite. Chanel is a strictly downhill. He's a blitzer. He's a hard hitter. Rose is the exact opposite. He is a coverage finesse guy. He's something that we don't have in our linebacker room at all right now, though. So I think of all of the undrafted free agents, I actually think Rose has the best chance to make the team out of any of them and actually see some playing time. in his first year. So appreciate the question. Very, very good. And yes, I do like Rosen. I do think he has a chance. Is this a make or break year for Spags? 100% Chase, and I appreciate the question. 100%. So if we kind of think back to our coach that left and went to our defensive backs coach that left and went to, I believe it was Miami, he talked about, appreciating that Reed let him out of the last year of his deal. Well, the Chiefs usually don't let out information on the contracts of their coaches. So nobody knows for sure what Spags' contract length is, but with the fact that it was the last year on his contract, I'm led to believe that it could be the last year on Spags' contract as well. A lot of the times the whole foundation of a unit, that whole coaching staff typically has the same length in contract. And I think that what we did in this draft, we went and got a bunch of Spags guys. McDuffie, little shorter arms, but uber athletic, great player. I was so amazed that he was even available, and I know the Chiefs were too. Veach actually talked about that in his presser after the draft. He was like, we never played out a scenario where McDuffie was available. So I think they were thoroughly surprised and just couldn't pass on it. But beyond that, everybody we got super physical and basically fit exactly what Spags likes. So this is kind of like, hey, we're giving you everything you want, everything you need. Go prove it. Go show us that you are a solid defensive coordinator, and then we'll talk extension. If this is a very average or below average defensive unit this upcoming year, I definitely think we'd be moving on from Spags. So, yes, absolutely, make or break year, 100%. Chase, I want to see Karlaftis and Kando start on the edge with Clark and Dana as the backup. We already know what we're getting from them. So depending on Kando's development and also his health, if that is up to par, if we feel that he's healthy and we feel that he has shown the development, Chase, I'm totally with you. I'm not a Frank Clark guy. And yes, we already know what we get out of Frank Clark. Now, excuse me, what do you think about Ingram and Karlaftis on the edge as well? We did file basically a tender, if you will, a restricted free agent or unrestricted free agent kind of tender, if you will, on Ingram. So basically, and I don't remember the date off the top of my head, it's sometime in July. But if he hasn't signed with another team for more than $4.4 million, then he is a Kansas City Chief at that point. It's basically once training camp starts. If he hasn't signed anywhere, he is a Kansas City Chief at that point. So now the only team that even showed interest in him before and offered him a contract close to that was Pittsburgh. So I don't think there's going to be a lot of other teams in the mix. So at this point, I would say I'm about 90% certain that Ingram will be a Kansas City Chief next year. So we have to put him into that mix as well. But I agree. I think Frank Clark should be coming off of the bench or playing in certain roles at this point. He definitely shouldn't be a 3-down defensive end. And yeah, I hope Kando is ready to go because I want to see what he's got for sure. He could help us a lot moving forward if he's able to get in there and provide any type of actual impact for the defense. So yeah, absolutely. Gary asks, does Mahomes have to prove anything this year, 2022? No, he really doesn't. Not to the team anyway. To your national media, I mean, maybe to them, if he has a down year, you're going to hear he can't do it without Tyreek Hill type of talk from them. But from inside the organization, he doesn't have anything that he has to prove. Maybe he has to prove something to himself, but I doubt it. He's a confident guy, and he's definitely, uber talented. Arguable, but in my opinion, the best quarterback in the NFL. So no, I don't think he has anything to prove this year. But I do think if he goes out and plays well, it's going to be, a nightmare for the rest of the NFL. Thank you for the question, though. I do appreciate it. Gary's on a roll. I love it, Gary. I appreciate you, man. What teams do you feel had better drafts than the Chiefs this year? I don't know that anybody had a better draft than the Chiefs. Now, I don't have like the draft board and list up in front of me right now, so I'm going off the top of my head. And just looking over the draft after it was done, I do remember really liking what the Ravens did. Ravens had a really nice draft. And then two teams that aren't competing with anybody did have really nice drafts and kind of set themselves up very well for the future. And that was the Jets and the Lions. Not going to go look up everybody they picked, but I do remember looking and really liking those three teams and what they did. But I don't think anybody did better than the Chiefs, but I do think those three teams matched up and did just as well as the Chiefs did. Chase asks, how safe is CEH starting role beyond 2022? Chase, I don't think his starting role is safe going into 2022, to be honest with you. Do I think he will be the starter? Yes. I think there is a chance that this could just turn into a full-on committee this year, though, and somebody is only a starter at that point because they were written down on the paper as a starter. I think by the time we get to the middle of this year, that if CEH hasn't really elevated his game, I think we're going to see a pretty even split in the backfield between him and Rojo. I'm very interested on the third spot as well. We have Gore, and then we have our 7th round draft pick, Pacheco, who he looks like he could be a decent ball player. He holds the skill set and the traits that you would look for in a 3-down back. Obviously, we drafted him in the 7th round for a reason. You know, he wasn't taken in the 3rd round or anything like that. So he's obviously got some things to work on. But he's a hard-nosed guy. He wants to get in there. Actually, an interview I saw of his, they were asking him about his favorite play in college, and he talked about a play where he was doing pass pro. He was pass protecting, and it was a 4th down play, and he helped out with the pass protection and drove somebody into the ground. They got a 1st down, and that was his favorite play. So he's got that hard-nosed mentality. So that number 3 spot, I think, is going to be interesting. But no, CEH, his starting role is definitely not safe after 2022. And again, I think midway through this year, we may be wondering if it's a full-on like 50-50-ish split between him and Rojo, to be honest with you. Let's see. Chase, I feel Baltimore had an underrated draft. I don't listen to a lot of like national media, to be honest with you. I don't want to kind of cloud my own thoughts with hearing other people's opinions too much because I just want to be completely real with you guys and let you know what I think. To me, it wasn't underrated. If they're not saying that it was an A, then at that point, yeah, you're absolutely right. It is underrated because, again, I remember looking at their draft. I was like, man, Ravens had a nice draft. Do you feel Thornhill will have a good year? I do. I'm excited about Thornhill this year, actually. Contract year. Players, coaches, they all admit it. Players play better on a contract year. It's just what it is. Go check stats. For a majority of players out there, their contract year is usually one of the best years of their career. This is his contract year. He's also kind of out from underneath the shadow of Matthew as well. So I think he's going to have a little more freedom. And I think he's going to be able to free flow a little bit. And the starting spot is his going into it. You know, before there was always that Dan Sorensen love from Spags. Never understood it, at least not the last 2 years. But that's gone. Now Thornhill doesn't have to worry about that. He's not in the doghouse. He can just go in and do his thing. And I think with the way this defense is set up and the depth we have in the defensive backs, I think is going to help him out a lot. We have some really good corners. It's a big need coming into the offseason. And like they went above and beyond with filling that. Obviously trading up and drafting Trent McDuffie. Drafting Josh Williams. I'm a huge Joshua Williams fan. Also took Jalen Watson at the tail end of the draft. I actually thought he was going to go in the 4th round. If you saw my predictions on who we were going to draft, I didn't put Watson on it because I felt like he was going to go in the 4th and we wouldn't have any shot at him after that. If I would have known he was there in the 7th, 100% I would have been pounding the table saying, yes, draft him. And then we traded for Lonnie Johnson as well. I like Lonnie Johnson. I think Lonnie Johnson's. I liked him coming out of Kentucky. Now Houston, up and down. They moved him all around, outside slot, free safety. Like they just had him all over the place. He was never able to get comfortable. But he's another big physical cornerback that can really hold his own. And as far as your question goes, that's going to free Thornhill up to not have to worry about everybody else as much. So I expect good things out of Thornhill this year. What's up with them bringing back Mckinnon? Last I saw, McKinnon's still a free agent. McKinnon's he's a year older. You look at what we've been doing, we've been trying to get younger as much as we could, right? We traded away Tyreek. I was blown away when we did that. But Tyreek Hill's contract's going to take him, up until he's like 32 or something like that. And they made a conscious decision this year to go younger. So as much as I like what McKinnon brings to the table, I think they want that youth movement. We're getting ready for phase 2 of the Mahomes era. So to prep and get ready for phase 2, got to load up with some youth so we can hit the ground running for the next 4 or 5 years with that. So I think that's essentially why we're not seeing anything on McKinnon coming back. But I appreciate the question. Let's see. Gary, do you feel Chiefs defense can be top 10 or 15 this year? Yes. Like my gut instinct is yes, but it's going to be how do we do the last half of the year. First half's going to be up and down. Every year with the Spags defense here in Kansas City has been up and down for the first half of the year, even with veterans and people that are more familiar with the scheme. Got a lot of new guys that are going to be seeing the field for them this year. So I'm excited about the defense. I'm more excited about the defense 2 and 3 years from now, to be honest with you. I expect good things from them this year, but let's not get our hopes too high. Everybody knows it's a pretty complicated scheme that Spags runs. Hopefully he can simplify it a little bit, but it's a complicated scheme. So it's going to take some adjustment periods for the young guys, as well as some of the vets that we bring in. So temper expectations the first half of the season, but I think we could finish strong enough in the last half of the season to definitely get ourselves within the top 15. I think that being within the top 10 is very reasonable as well. I appreciate the question. Thank you. My Nick Bolton comparison is Danny Trevathan. I can see it. By the way, our linebacking core, it's a nasty one now. And I mean, nasty in a good way for us and not a good way for the rest of the league. We have some guys that have some athleticism, like 2 guys that are uber athletic, with Leo Chanel and Willie Gay Jr. Big time athletes. And then all 3 of them, both of them and Bolton, can all bring the wood. All of them can bring the pain. And all of them react very well. I'm very interested to see when we're in our base package how they go about those 3 linebackers. When we have a linebacker blitz dialed up, quarterback better be getting rid of that ball really, really quick. And that's where this new defensive backfield that we have really comes into play. And I think we could see a lot of very opportunistic interceptions jumping some of those routes when we do bring those blitzes with these athletic linebackers that we have. All right, let's see here. Tim asked, what in the world is going on with the Royals? Kind of touched on that. I think the strikeouts is a big deal for the Royals right now. Again, we need more strikeouts from the pitchers. We need less strikeouts from the batters. We are not balancing in a good way right now. And I think they need a spark. I think they need to gain some momentum is really what it boils down to. And we have a chance at it. So we have a couple of games against the Cardinals, and then we move on and we play against the 2 teams that are in last place in their divisions, our next 2 series. It's the Rangers and let me see who it was. Do a quick live look up here, guys. We have So Baltimore and then the Rangers, which are both in last place in their division. So that's after these 2 games with St. Louis, we're going to have 6 games, 3 with Baltimore, 3 with Texas. That is our chance to gain some momentum going into it. So I appreciate the question, Tim, but got to gain some momentum. They are definitely lacking that right now. Chase says the Royals usually struggle with the Rangers. Yeah, the Royals' struggle this year is everybody that's outside of our division. If you look at our wins this year, they have all came within the division. We haven't won a single game outside of the division. We lost to St. Louis, and we played Seattle. We lost all 3 to Seattle. We played the Yankees. We lost all 3 to the Yankees. Played St. Louis again. Lost to St. Louis. We're currently defeated. We haven't beat anybody outside of our division right now. So Baltimore and Texas, this is a chance to jumpstart the season. I hope they recognize that is a possibility for us. Should the Royals try to sign Hosmer? As much as I love Hosmer, I don't think it makes a ton of sense, honestly. We have some young guys that we need to bring up, is what we need to do. Prado needs to be called up. Vinny needs to be called up. Melendez needs to be called up. So we have some youth that could come up and help kind of spark this team, help gain some momentum as well. I don't think going out and grabbing any veteran necessarily is going to help us. It's nostalgic, right? I think every fan would love to see Hosmer come back to this team. But I think as far as the makeup of the roster, though, I think we're much better off going on the youth side of things. All right. Let's see what else we got. Tony asks, we have a ton of corners now. Who do you think will make the roster? We definitely do have a ton of corners right now. Who do I think will make the roster? So obviously McDuffie, first round draft pick, guaranteed. So he'll start. Snead will start. And I would expect Fenton to still be in the mix as the number 3. I think Lonnie Johnson can give him a run for it. So I think that's our 3-4. And we'll probably keep 6. So we have a 5 spot and a 6 spot left after that. So 2 spots left. And I think you're looking at Joshua Williams, Jalen Watson, and DeAndre Baker. And then we have the guys that we've had for a couple of years, the younger guys, the kind of mix in between safety and corner as well with Boodle and Zane Anderson. So if I had to guess, I think that Joshua Williams is on this roster, which would put us at 5. The number 6 spot, I feel like we almost have to go DeAndre Baker. Just for the experience and the fact that he knows the system. I can't imagine us having 4 of our top 6 all being new. 3 of them being rookies and 1 of them just being new to the team. I just can't see it. So I would have to say DeAndre Baker would fill it out, and the rest would be practice squad guys. Or we could let some of the previous practice squad guys go, to be honest with you. But appreciate the question. Let's see. I feel like I'm starting to lose my voice on you guys here. Chase, I feel like the Royals kind of overvalue these prospects sometimes. They hung on to Mondesi, Lopez, and Witt too long. So I don't disagree with you, but you also have to look at what's the value. I agree. I thought Mondesi, I've never been a fan of Mondesi. I think he's He's always been a liability at the plate, and I don't think that that's ever going to change. And now he's injury prone as well. So Mondesi, I actually would have liked to have seen us trade him off quite a while ago. Get 1 year of him, trade him off, especially with all the youth that we do have. Move off of some of the young guys that are already on the roster and make room for some of the younger guys to come up and see what they can do. Sometimes you have to filter through these guys and see who it is that's really going to fit. Lopez is growing on me. If you asked me this time last year, I would have said the same thing about Lopez. But Lopez is starting to grow on me a little bit. And as far as Witt goes, I'm definitely assuming you're talking about Merrifield. But I think we should have traded Merrifield 3 years ago when he was at a peak as far as trade value, because very quickly it became he was more valuable to the Royals than he was to other teams. So the value we're going to get in return didn't meet the value that he provided to this team. And yeah, I agree. So I think Lopez is still tradable. Mondesi, I don't think you would get a ton out of because he is shown to continuously have the injuries. And I think the getting anything of value for Merrifield, I think that ship has kind of sunk as well. Do you feel the Chiefs needed to draft a tight end? I don't. I have heard some people talk about us needing to get a tight end. I think we're 1 year off. I think next year, yes, I do think we should be getting a tight end. I think Kelsey has 2 solid years left in him. I think we're going to see a slower decline these next couple years out of Kelsey. He's still going to be productive. He's still going to help this team. I think we have enough depth behind him right now that this year will be just fine. And we can see really what we're getting out of Fortson to see, is he going to be a number 2 moving forward, or is he still going to be kind of a number 3 guy? Gray, I think Gray kind of, he is who he is. He's a decently athletic tight end that can run some routes and catch the ball, but he's never going to be dominant. So I do think come this time next year, if we're talking draft next year, I think tight end could be something that we're looking to take fairly early. Most tight ends take a couple years to develop, right? Kelsey didn't just step on the field and was a stud from day one, right? It takes some time to develop. So I think next year, if we draft one, he gets to sit under Kelsey for about 2 years. So he'll obviously get his playing timing, but he'll get to develop and learn while he's playing. So I think next year is when we really need to look tight end. I don't think it was a necessity this year, to be honest with you. But I do, again, I appreciate the question. Let's see. Chris actually asked basically the same thing. Do you think we hung on to Whit Merrifield too long? I think we would have been better off if we would have traded him last year. I don't think the value was there for him last year, if I have to be honest with you. Again, I think he was more valuable to the Royals than he was to other teams, so the trade value wasn't going to be as good. I think the year before that would have been opportune time to trade Merrifield, but yeah, I do think we hung on to him too long, to be honest with you. No way around it. Right, let's see here. This was the last one via email. Steven, I didn't have any questions. Just wanted to say in Veach we trust. I appreciate that, yes. And yes, in Veach we trust. A lot of people were worried coming into this draft about what was going to happen. Are we going to trade up? Are we going to trade back? Oh, we're not going to take a corner. I thought that too. Early anyway. I did peg us for taking Josh Williams. He was actually one of the ones I expected us to take in the 4th round. But yes, in Veach we trust. Veach absolutely crushed it this year. There is no way around that. He traded up at the perfect times. He traded back at the perfect times. For us to trade back in the 2nd round from 50 to 54 and then draft Sky Moore, who a lot of people were pegging as a potential 1st round draft pick for the Chiefs, for us to actually move back in the draft and still get the guy that I think we were targeting right there, that was absolutely genius. And what that did is it allowed us to gain that 5th round pick. And then we were able to move up a little bit with that and able to get Kennard, who tackle, guard. We'll see what he truly is in the NFL. I think he has the capability to play both. So if Niang is back and healthy and ready to go, we have a very solid backup in Kennard who can continue to develop his own game. And he's there and he's available in case we need him at guard or tackle, which just gives us a lot of flexibility on what we can do when we're constructing this roster and making our cuts and getting down to the 53 man as we come up on the season. So yeah, definitely some really good moves by Veach. I loved what he did. I don't think anybody will question by far and away his best draft that he's ever had with us. And again, I just don't think there's any way to question that at this point. So yes, in Veach, we trust. Absolutely. Let's see. Chase, why don't the Royals value sluggers? It seems everybody to go after has mediocre power. Well, the issue is if you have a lot of good power, other teams are after you too. And for a lot of players, if you have a choice between the Royals, who other than 2014 and 15 have predominantly been a pretty bad team, I think most players are going to choose other teams to go to. Other teams are also willing to pay more than we are. And I think part of it might come into the success that we did have in 2014 and 15. We did so without having any true power players. Yeah, Perez had a little bit of pop. Haas had some pop. Moose had some pop. Like we had some guys that had some pop, but none were truly power hitters. So I'm wondering if we are still trying to kind of follow that mold of just keep the line moving because of the success we had for those 2 years and those 2 World Series appearances. But I agree. I've always thought we could use some more power. And you don't have to go get a whole power lineup or anything. Give me a number 3 and 4 hitter that both have the capability to go out and get 40 home runs. Maybe they thought that's what they were getting when they got Santana. I don't know why Santana's still on this roster, to be honest with you. I don't know what his contract is, but if I'm the Royals, I'm willing to eat that contract and just let him go. Again, there's a certain point where you have to opt to just go with the youth movement and let that be what it is. I hate when we sit on our young guys and we don't bring them up and we just continue to be very, very mediocre or bad for that matter. And if you bring the young guys up, again, you can get a spark out of that. You're also able to see what these guys can do. So I don't get it. Bring the young guys up. Let them play. Let's see what we got. That way you know what you need to do moving forward. So I'm with you. I'd like to see some more power in the lineup too. But again, I just don't think free agents they're not going to want to come to the Royals to play. We're not going to pay them what other teams are going to pay them. And they wouldn't see the success here that they would see on other teams. But again, appreciate the question from you. Be sure you guys tune in. Again, we do this every Tuesday at 8 o'clock Central Time right here on Stadium Drive Sports. And if you guys play fantasy football, keep in mind that coming up starting the Friday the 13th, so here in 10 days, will be our first episode we will post of Fantasize This, where we talk fantasy football. We give you guys all the information you need to help you win your championship in fantasy football. So you can always ask your questions that you have for fantasy as well. Again, you can do that right here live on the Combo Show, or you can also do that by sending us an email. If you have any questions that you want to know, whether it's rankings or draft strategies, anything like that when it comes to fantasy football, send us an email at stadiumdrivesports@gmail.com or hop in here to the live stream as well and ask your questions right here. We can also talk fantasy. We don't have to just talk Chiefs and Royals because, trust me, I love my fantasy football. I've been playing it for almost 20 years now. I've got a lot of championships under my belt, and I'm happy to help share that information with you guys, answer your questions, and find out your guys' thoughts too, right? We like this to be interactive. I want to know what you guys think as well, not just always tell you what I think, because your guys' opinions matter. We like to say we are the fans for the fans here on Stadium Drive Sports. But I appreciate you guys tuning in. Again, my name is Kevin Britton. If you're a fan of the Chiefs, tune in to the 12th Man at Arrowhead Drive every Sunday, every Wednesday here on Stadium Drive Sports. And if you're a fan of the Royals, tune in to The Royal Way, hosted by Sean Barr here on Stadium Drive Sports. That is every Monday and every Thursday. And, of course, the Combo Show live, 8 p.m. Central Time, every Tuesday. But, again, appreciate you guys tuning in. Till next time.